like and leave a heart, please.
There we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Vito Locksmith Show. I'm your host, David Gibson. So excited to be here with you guys on this Friday, where we are unlocking the secrets to success in the oil and gas industry. One interview, one technical presentation, and one technical screw-up at a time. So, guys, let me know if there are any technical screw-ups, audio not working, or if I fumble on something else. Just let us know. All right. As per usual, guys, let me know where you guys are watching from. Love to be able to give everybody a shout-out here on the screen. This is going to be an absolutely amazing show. So really, really happy that you guys are joined here in with us. All right, so let's go ahead and see who we've already got watching. As per usual, right, there is Clockwork, and then there is John DeWart, who is tuning in from sunny Colorado, always joining in to be able to watch the show. Thank you for being here, sir. I really, really do appreciate your support. And we've got Artie Morrison tuning in from Magnolia, Texas. Thanks for being here, sir. Dwight, Mario Lindley, hey dude, in parentheses, said should be good. Says hello, Wayne. All right, thank you, sir. And then we've got Regina says tuning in from Houston. Thanks for being here as well. And Paul, good morning from Scotland. All right, little across the pond. Yep, still put there at Scotland. So yeah, quick update for everybody. For anybody who hasn't seen. I invested in my first oil well, and it went well. The well went well this week. So we were actually able to be out there when they were logging. Really, really exciting process. It was my first time to ever actually be in a wireline truck. And to be a part of it as a stakeholder in the well was actually really, really exciting. I know it's not for everybody, but if you ever get the opportunity to, highly recommend it. It was a lot of fun. And no guarantees yet. They are going to set pipe on it, but we'll see if it actually ends up being a producing well. So just wanted to be able to give everybody kind of an update of some of the things that I'm doing that are outside of the norm of just, data and all the other Gibson report stuff. All right. Who else we got tuned in? The famous LinkedIn user, Wayne's favorite sister, here to support. Okay. I guess your sister's name is LinkedIn user. Amy Interrarity says, hey, buddy, just let everybody know, if you're looking for somebody to be able to do custom swag stuff, Clever Girl Studios and Amy Interrarity, that is the person to be able to get in touch with. Absolutely amazing. She's the one who took my little 3D printed drill bits and turned them into chocolate drill bits, as well as also done some of the puzzles and a million other things. She did the cups and stuff. Anyways, perfect person to be able to get in touch with. So little plug to her. All right, and then Mr. Michael Domino tuning in. Looking forward to this. Domino, thank you for tuning in. One of the first guys that I actually met with Drilling Tools International at the time was Directional Rentals when I was working at Children's Directional. Just told the story a little bit earlier. Big thank you to Mike because he was the very first salesperson in the industry to actually treat me like a person. So I will always be in your debt, sir, and I honestly, truly do appreciate that. So, all right, who else we got? We got Sandra tuning in from Richmond. Thanks for being here. Armando, good morning from Villa Moriso, Mexico. Thank you, sir. Salim tuning in from Pittsburgh. We don't usually get people from Pittsburgh, so that's cool. Jason tuning in from Oklahoma. Thanks for being here, sir. Haris tuning in from Pakistan. All right, so we definitely have the international portion of the show going. Oh, there we go. Ivan tuning in from Colombia. What else we got next? LinkedIn user from Austin. Not really sure who that is, but thanks for being here. Patrick Miller says, look forward to watching. Thank you, sir. And Mike Domino says, I appreciate that, David. Well, I appreciate you, sir. Sound is fuzzy. Is it my end or are others the same? Good question, John. Let us know. If we need to tune it down just a little, let us know. And then Maria says she's tuning in from Mexico. All right. While we figure out the sound issue, what we're going to do, as per normal on Fridays, we're going to give away ourselves a little drill bit. So if you want to win one of these Gibson Reports 3D printed drill bits, put in hashtag Gibson into the comment section now to be able to win yourself a 3D printed drill bit. And then to be able to give you an idea, this next week, who is it? New Park. I believe New Park on Wednesday, right, Tracy?
Yes.
Next week. Wednesday next week, we will have another How It's Done episode featured with New Park. So here is the intro for that. Oh, everybody's saying fuzzy. Fuzzy sound, yes. All right. Well, Tracy, play that part.
Sound check.
And then we'll play that part and we'll get this fixed real quick.
Okay.
All right, now we're back, guys. Let me know if the sound is working a little bit better. Notice everybody did put in the hashtag Gibson. Do appreciate that. We'll get away whoever's drill bit this is. So, Artie, or if anybody of my family is watching and you guys want to text me, because that way I can get. Well, I've already gotten 3 text messages. Nope, those are for other things. Okay, so yeah, if the sound isn't coming through good, guys, let us know. We'll keep adjusting it as we go along. All right, let's do the drawing real quick. Tracy, how many have we gotten in there? Sounds good.
22.
All right, yeah, we can go ahead and give away a little bit already. All right, we'll go ahead and draw that one. Now let's see. And our winner for the what? It's going to be Domino. Is it? Oh, Ozzy Silva. Ozzy, thanks for tuning in, man. Thanks for being here, brother. I've got your contact information. I'll shoot you a text, or just shoot me a DM on LinkedIn, and we'll get you or send me your address, and we'll get one of these shipped out to you ASAP. All right, on with today's show. We're joined by none other than the CEO of Drilling Tools International, Wayne Prejean. Wayne, thank you for being here, sir.
David, good to be here.
So, for those that don't know you, give us a quick little introduction to who you are.
My name is Wayne Prejean. I am the president and CEO of Drilling Tools International. Have been there for about 10 years, and really privileged and proud to lead that company with a fine group of folks that I work with every day. Been in the industry 40 plus years, and been around the oil patch for all of my life. It's the only thing I've ever done in my entire work life. So, here we are.
So what I know that the big news has already kind of been let out, but for our audience, what's been the big thing that you guys have done here recently?
So after a decade of being privately held, sponsored by our private equity group, the Hicks Group out of Dallas, we decided to take the company public via a de-SPAC process, a special purpose acquisition company. And we worked through that process, announced in February, took us about 4 months. And we listed on the NASDAQ Stock Exchange on June 20th and started trading June 21st. And just recently, last week on Thursday, we were able to ring the closing bell on NASDAQ at the NASDAQ trading floor. And it was quite an experience for me and my team and our family. So it was quite a bucket list kind of thing to be able to do. It's pretty exciting.
Tell me about that feeling. How did that feel when you were standing up there about to ring the bell?
So I've shared this with some of my colleagues. It was so exciting to be there. The whole process, the NASDAQ team does a fantastic job of setting it up and giving you expectations of what it's like, what to do, how to organize it. Our assistant Sandra, she did a fantastic job of organizing it. But we get there, you walk into the main NASDAQ building. There's these huge screens, and they have all your pictures and your logo up there, and all the listing information, and then they walk you into the studio, and it's kind of an interesting process. It's all very well scripted because they do it twice a day. They do it opening bell, closing bell. So they have a producer and a staff there. It's in a studio. It's unbelievable. But we take pictures with different groups, and after all that's said and done, about 10 minutes before the live feed at the closing bell, there's a ceremony where a NASDAQ executive comes up and welcomes us to the program. Then they invite me up. I give a short speech. That's been live streamed as well. And then we all get up there, the whole group, and we stand around the bell and we do the countdown, and then they broadcast it on CNBC and Fox for about 10 seconds. So the 10 minutes leading up to that, you know, we're all in the studio doing our thing, but they only broadcast live to the world the 8-10 seconds of it, like, you know, sitting there clapping. So it was quite an experience. You know, yeah, unbelievable.
How did it feel for you then, like after that was done? You know, to like, you're like, oh,
relief.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's leading up to it, it didn't really affect me very much, but I'll never forget when it was almost showtime and the producer said, you need to come stand next to me. And I'm standing between a camera and the producer myself, and all the lights are on the stage. And this guy starts walking up and the lights drop. And at that moment, you know, my heart's beating like, oh, wow, this is really it. We're really going to do this. You know, this is going to be really, you know, live. And so, you know, it got to me a little bit, but I, you know, did my breathing exercises and, you know, got my mindset focused on what I had to do, and then, you know, walked up and it worked out okay. So, yeah.
So take me through the process and the decision-making process to be able to go public, because obviously that's something that not every company does.
Right.
Right. And for that matter, not a lot of oil and gas companies are, you know, in you know, my recollection, I can't remember many others going public.
Right.
Right. So what was the decision-making process there? And then how much work was it to be able to get to that stage, to be able to get up there, or not so much on the stage, the live portion of it, but to be able to get listed and that to be completed?
I'm glad you brought that up. Well, you know, the ceremony to ring the bell is just that. It's a ceremony to signify the actually end of one journey and the start of a new one. So, yeah, we spent the last decade building a business, structuring our you know, business strategy, building internal systems, things that private companies normally wouldn't do, with the idea that we wanted to be a best-in-class professional organization. I surrounded myself with a bunch of very talented individuals, and they're all on our website. I could name them now, but you know, they everyone knows who they are. My CFO David and Aldo and Mike and Jim and Trent and Rick and the whole team. You know, Ashley and my assistant Sandra, but the whole team and our accounting team. We built out a real strong back office, a real strong sales team, a real strong operational team, and along the way, we were always prepared that if we ever wanted to go public, we would be. And not every company can say they're prepared for that. So we started a process 3-4 years ago to say, hey, if ever we get to a point where we get big enough and we decide to do that, we can. And you know, the market was, the market optics were good last quarter in fourth quarter of 22. And then we announced in January, February, and everything was really going well. And then a funny thing happens in the oil and gas business, right? You know, natural gas got soft, rig count softened a little bit, and before you know it, you know, it got a little harder to get this thing across the finish line. But we have a high quality company. We had a great team of people. The people who engaged with us, Rock Energy Partners, who was a SPAC, the sponsors of the SPAC, were very dedicated and committed. Everyone stayed on course, on path. And that's what happens when you have a lot of committed, dedicated professionals who understand what it takes to get a complex transaction across the finish line. And we did that. And I'm quite proud of all of them and appreciative to everyone who put some sweat equity into this. So,
how much time were you spending late nights having to research all of this? Because I'm guessing, like, for me, I'm just like, so much of this is over my head, right? And I'm not saying like oilfield guys can't learn and know how to do this stuff, you know, but like, I mean, was there a lot of times where you're just like, okay, here are the steps and this is what this means and this is, you know, and I'm guessing there was a lot of your team around you also having to go through this learning curve as well, because, you know, like taking a company public is not something that, you know, somebody does, you know, 40 times in their career.
Well, you know, I've spent the last decade working with one of the finest private equity professional teams, you know, doing transactions, you know, learning about the investment community and how it operates. In addition to us running the business, I have a very talented CFO, David Johnson, who has a unique set of skill sets, understands the business, but also is a really talented financial professional. We also have a lot of consultants, a lot of attorneys, and there are a plethora of people out there who can really give you all the advice for a fee on how to make these kind of things happen. And the trick is to hire the right people, work with them, give them the information, be collaborative, and make sure the process moves itself along in a very efficient manner. And that's the hard part. So it's not rocket science. To a person that hasn't done it before, it might seem a little bit overwhelming, and it was to us at some point in the game. But we just plowed through it, and I was fascinated by in the 4 months of filing S4s and all these other SEC filings and requirements. I would get emails from lawyers at 10 o'clock at night and respond at 11 and respond at 6 a.m. And then we get another round of documents by 10 a.m. And it's just like this perpetual motion of document production, 7 days a week, 30 days a month, never ending. It's quite an interesting process. Don't go to sleep just don't go on vacation. It's quite a process.
So you spoke a little bit there on, bringing in the right people and stuff and having that. So for building the business from where I knew it started at, or at least the early days where I kind of came into the offshore, is at directional rentals.
Directional rentals, yes.
Right. Mm-hmm. So how, being in the leadership position that you're in, how did you effectively grow the company to the point it is today?
Well, I would say we started with a great platform. Mike Domino created directional rentals with a partner. Well, he was a partner in that group, and I think the partner that was bought out by Hicks Equity Partners, he retired, and Mike wanted to take the company to whole new heights. So wisely, he said, I'd like to have a whole team around me to do this, and so I joined the company when we made a transaction, and we brought more and more veterans to the team, right? And we put together a cohesive strategy of going out and buy other products, companies, and growing organically and strategically in the market, and taking the approach that we wanted to be. And it was a simple approach, quite frankly, is we saw the shale business and the shale plays around North America evolving into operators and companies with programs, multiple rigs with large acreage positions with a long-term, I call it extraction strategy, right? The industry had evolved quite a bit. And we recognized early on that we need to be aligned with all those success stories, and that's our success story. Now, we supply the all of the industry across North America. We're probably supplying 65% of the rigs in North America with tools of some category today, right? So we have a large distribution spread and a large footprint, but our strategy was to make sure that we were aligned with the most successful companies. And that's not easy. You have to have a huge quality program, safety, infrastructure. You have to make lots of investments. You have to get a lot, large spread. You have to have the right people. So, we coupled experience, industry knowledge, technical knowledge, talent, dedication, commitment, strategy, and we've been executing in over the last 10 years. And here's where we are today. And now we got to do that again and keep doing it. So,
what kind of strategy do you put in place for the ups and downs of the industry, right? Because the cyclical nature of oil and gas is something that, one is very obvious in the historical aspect of it, but anybody in the industry today, has to be fully aware and know that that's coming again. What do you guys put in place to be able to make sure that you guys are there, to be able to essentially ride the roller coaster?
Well, historically, people would rapidly grow with the industry and get rewarded, and suffer the consequences if they grew too fast, if we had a downturn. The wise thing to do, I think, is to, again, align yourself with successful companies, keep your leverage low, don't get over levered in debt. Don't do things that you don't get rewarded for in the industry. Have a business that you can scale quickly, so that you don't burn so many dollars so fast that you can't recover, or you can't survive through the downturn. That's either with reserve resources or a scalable model that you can adjust depending on how fast the industry is moving at that time. So probably the most heartbreaking part of scaling our industry is most of it's labor driven. In the directional drilling space, if you got a company that's running 40 directional jobs and now you have 20, there's a whole lot of people you're not going to need, and that's heartbreaking in this industry. Same goes with us. We have a lot of skilled, talented people that we do our very best to employ and give them stability and security, but a major market downturn, it's just very heartbreaking. That's the hard part of this business. The fun part is all the things I mentioned earlier, but the heartbreaking part of this business is to have to not having the ability to keep your people working. That's the hardest part in the leadership role. And it weighs on you. You take personal responsibility for the success of the company, but you also take a heartfelt responsibility for when you can't keep those people employed. So that's very important to us. So, but it's life, life in the business. So.
Yeah. How do you guys handle innovation in the industry? Because that's also one of the things that also, it may not be like a downturn where it's a huge impact to everybody, but we've also seen rig efficiencies,
right?
To where like the number of rigs that we have now versus 10 years ago is, we're doing more footage than we were then with more rigs,
exponentially more,
right? So how do you guys, from y'all standpoint, look at innovation and being able to kind of stay ahead of the curve?
So, we continue to try to bring new tools or new geometry of tools, adjust to the requirements of our customers. The wellbore proportional geometry is what we do in wellbore construction. It's, you only have a hole that's so big, and then you have everything that fits in there, and you have to have hydraulics and physical energy to drill the wellbore, clean the hole, and hold everything together, hopefully without a catastrophe, and get it out of the hole and get case in the ground. That's really what we do, right? Well, the faster you go and the faster you turn, the more stress and fatigue you create on every tool in the ground. And all we've done over the last decade is fix one thing and break another, and fix one, break another. Everything gets better and better, but you keep transferring stress points in the bottom hole assembly of the drill string. At some point, there's no perfect drill string that'll last forever, or drilling assembly. So the challenge with us is to improve our quality processes, improve the connection qualities, improve stabilization, and vibration dampening equipment. Wellbore conditioning tools to make the wellbore more uniform so that it behaves and performs better, gets case in the ground. So we have a lot of new stuff come to the table. Some of it I can't really tip my hat on right now, but
tell us everything you're not allowed to say.
Yeah. Well, we're going to be careful what we say, but we have a couple of new things. One of them is called rotor steer. I don't know if you're familiar with that one.
I think I've heard. I've seen some of the posts on LinkedIn. I frequent that place every once in a while.
Right. We're pretty excited about this as an emerging, I hate to use the word game changing, everybody loves that word. It's another tool in the toolbox of the oil and gas operator to say, hey, we can drill our wells with rotary steerable. We can drill them with conventional bent housing, BHAs and MWDs with agitation tools, vibration tools. Or we have a tool now that's called rotor steer. It's basically we're partnering with a group out of Canada, CT Energy Services, and it's an upside down motor. Take a downhole motor, flip it upside down, and when you rotate the bit box, you're basically inverting the motor from a progressive cavity torque generator to more of a pump, which you're rotating the rotor inside of the stator elastomer, and you're creating friction, and you're flowing, fluids flowing through there. When you create that friction, you rotate the stator body to the right. So imagine you put this above the bottom hole assembly. If you rotate it fast, it rotates the BHA. If you rotate it slow, the reactive torque of the downhole motor will actually come to a neutral point, and you can control the tool face. So you basically fast, you're rotating the bottom hole assembly. Slow, you can slide. So it's a tool that's it's kind of like a rotary steerable system, but it's not a system. It's just basically a rotational tool. It's a tool that allows you to rotate the BHA and rotate the string continuously. So we're getting successive runs right now. We're building a fleet of tools. We feel like this is going to enable people to drill longer laterals and have an alternative when a rotary steerable system is not the best alternative. They would have an option, a third option instead of conventional.
So you say longer laterals. What are some of the demands that you're seeing from clients, here in U.S. land or even internationally, that you think is going to be the next way forward for the industry?
Faster, farther. Faster, farther. We got to go farther and faster. And we got to go farther, faster, affordable. Many folks in the industry, a lot of my colleagues and a lot of, customers and directional companies and operators talk about all the challenges of downhole tools. But at the end of the day, it's incumbent upon us to give our clients what they want. And what our clients want is to drill safe, efficient, fast, and far. And that's the holy grail of incremental value for all of these operators out there, is to efficiently drill that third and fourth mile and put casing in it and complete it. Everybody can drill a 1-2 mile lateral these days. That's not very difficult. You get 2, 3, 4 miles, 3, 4 miles, you start creating more complexities, more problems, more issues, right? Not to say that every well's easy. That's not what I'm implying. But as the industry gets better and more efficient, right, it's predictable at a 1-2 mile lateral. Used to drilling a mile out was, oh my God, that's a mile, right? Then they drilled 2 miles, and now it's 3, 4, and now you have all these really,
Now they're doing mile a day.
Oh, it's ridiculous how fast it goes. Yeah, well, they're drilling think about it. It used to take you, if you wanted 10,000 foot of lateral a decade ago, you'd be out there 30 days. Now you get 70,000 feet of lateral, in some areas. Now, of course, some formations are deeper, TBD. Some of them are harder, more complex geologically. It's not homogeneous. It's not a simple process everywhere you go. Well, wellbore construction is still a complex, complicated, challenging thing to do. But you see on LinkedIn every day, record here, record there, record right. So much of that, right? Everybody. That's the great thing about social media. Is everybody can promote their records, right?
Yeah.
And everybody's got a record every day, right? But it kind of feeds on itself, So it's kind of fun to watch, from my point of view. So it's where I could tell you a story about when I started in the business in 1979.
Go ahead.
My first job with Scientific Drilling, I went offshore, and think about this. I'm going to put this in perspective. We went offshore, and I'm working for Scientific Drilling as a wireline steering tool hand, and we would run a wireline steering tool through the center of the drill pipe, have a 60-foot Gibson where we'd hang it off, and we'd have a bent housing motor, a straight motor with a bit and a bent housing 30 feet away from the bit, with a 1.5 degree with a Mushu sub, and we'd orient and we'd slide and kick off the wellbore. Then they come out of the hole with all that and go to rotary drilling. And that's how you did directional drilling back then. That was technology, right? Fast forward about 6 months, I go on another job. I'm all of 19, 20 years old, right? And they said, hey, we're gonna do something new on this job. What's that? We're gonna run on top of an MWD. It was the Teleco, one of the first MWDs out there. So what they did was they had a bit motor, a bent housing, then a Teleco MWD on top of it, and then a Mushu sub on top of that. And we'd run through the drill pipe. We oriented the steering tool what was happening is the operator was uncomfortable with, relying solely on the MWD to give it tool face.
Surprise, surprise. They're skeptical
until it's proven, right?
Yeah.
So
everybody's going to be second.
Yeah, and for years I ran steering tools all over and surveys, and then we got our own MWD at Scientific, and I became an MWD hand, not long after that. But think about how fast the industry has changed, from directional tool technology to, MWD technology. Then the next big step was bent housing motors, right? Steerable motor. Instead of a bent sub on the top, you put a bend between the bearing pack and the drive shaft and the stator, right? Yeah. And now you can, steer closer to the bit, and you can rotate it. So it's a slide or rotate tool instead of, the old, you have to trip out of the hole to go back to straight drill. And so it's just fascinating how far it's come. And then you fast forward to the late 80s and more steerable motors are coming into play. MWD tools are becoming more reliable. There's many more suppliers. And then now we figured out in probably the mid 80s, hey, you know what? We could probably go sideways and go horizontal. Drilling a horizontal well in an offshore environment and other places at one point in the industry was so cost prohibitive. It was so risky. Nobody would do it. And there was no real belief that you could produce something horizontally at that point. Everything had a conventional mentality, right? It's just all conventional approach to production. But in the late 80s, about 85, 86, there was a guy out of Dallas called Ray Hollifield, and he did a lot of Giddings Austin chalk drilling in the vertical days in the 70s. And he knew where all these geology plays were. And he decided he was going to drill a reentry out of 7-inch or 5.5-inch casing that was set through the Austin chalk, real thick, layer of limestone, and was going to come out and try to drill horizontally and tie in multiple vertical fractures, fractured rock. And they started that in 85, 86, I believe. And in 87 or 88, I got a call, an offer to go to work for a company called Beckfield Horizontal Drilling. There were 7 employees. There were 2 rigs drilling horizontal wells in the entire country. Okay. And Beckfield was on both of them in the Austin Chalk. And then there was another company called Insco that was, remember the Insco drilling? Well, they had a little division called Insco. They kind of started doing that with Union Pacific as well. So and that was all kind of happened simultaneously. I'm not taking credit that we were the first, we were some of the early Martians, let me just tell you, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying we were the first Martians. I don't want to imply that, but
and everybody says they're the first.
Yeah.
So when you say you're not, then there's more credibility to it.
Well, I'm just saying I just don't know that for a fact. I just know that I absolutely know at one point when I worked for Beckfield, there were 2 rigs drilling horizontal wells in the whole country, and we were the only ones doing it. Now there may be other people doing it right before or right after or during subsequent to that, but I knew that for a fact. It was very much in its infancy. And we were drilling slim hole re-entries. We call it medium radius. You're talking, 20 to 25 degrees per 100 curves, right? Bill rates, using double bend, small 3.5-inch motors with 4.5, 4 3/4 bits. And it was a monumental task to drill the curve and figure this out. We would make 4 or 5 trips and, we used wireline steering tools. It was crazy. But once we got the curve drilled, we would get in a lateral with a straight motor, and we would just slide and drill straight for 1,000 feet. I remember when we made our first 1,000 feet lateral. We had 1,000 foot of lateral. I mean, when we rigged down our tools, we went to the local bar and we drank till we closed it. We were celebrating. We thought we had changed the world, And so then the next well got better and better. And then there came a day where we decided we were going to rotate this drill string. And we were using 2 7/8 pH tubing to convey, this slim hole. So anyway, it progressed. And before you know it, all the other companies, the directional companies, everybody, the Austin Chalk became a thing, right? And everybody was doing this. It wasn't just us. And it just became, it was 100 rigs working in the chalk. I'm going to say from 88 to 91, it went from 1 or 2 to 100. Can you imagine? That's a huge step change in, what the industry was able to do. So all of the directional tools, directional drillers, and everybody in the world, MWDs kind of converged on Giddings and Pearsall, the 2 big Austin chalk plays. And it became a thing. I mean, it was quite busy. I mean, that's where we kind of, in my view, that's where we incubated the industry. That was the chicken farm that made all the other chicken farms.
Yeah,
I could give you 10 names of guys that I worked with either at Beckfield or guys from Insco or guys from Smith and Baker that were all there that are either own their own companies or running their own companies or did something significant in the horizontal drilling business because we were all there. We all learned in this little laboratory, called the Austin Chalk, right? That's where we all learned. So, but that's where we all started. So,
Interestingly enough, after we get done here, there's a piece of Austin chalk sitting out here.
It's all over out here, right?
Yeah. So there's a nice little chunk of rock outside that's Austin chalk. So it's always fun to be able to go. People talk about it and it's like, oh yeah, we got a piece of it right here. It doesn't have any oil in it or anything, but it's right there, so you can kind of get an idea of it. So I want to be able to give everybody a chance. If anybody's got any questions, if you guys have some questions for Wayne, be sure to throw them out there. We got anything that's come up yet? Thank you, Wayne. Great stories to offer perspective on growth and innovation. That's from Kurt. Can you explain how to adjust the tool face with this new motor, RS, the rotor steer? From what I understand, that different RPMs give you different tool faces.
Correct. So it's real simple. It's you use speed, rotary speed, and weight on bit or differential to control how the downhole tool face reacts. So you would slow, let's just say you wanted to be in the rotational mode. You would maybe dial the rotary speed on surface up to 100 RPMs. Once you get to 100, you'll be in the rotational mode. If you wanted to slide, you would just let it drill off. Then you slow the rotary down. You monitor your tool faces, because your tool face, now tool face updates are like instant, right? When I first started, we said we're gonna pump up a survey, right? We go make a hamburger and come back, and the survey would come up 4 or 5 minutes later, right? And then we make a decision, right? Now it comes up instantaneously, right? So now you can, set your data stream to decide, when you see your tool faces, and if you see if your MWD is rotating, you can see if it's still. So what you do is you monitor that, and when it's still, whatever your tool face is, you'd slow your rotary down where it stays steady. So at about 20 RPMs, you just have enough torque created on your rotor steer tool to control the reactive torque, and you start going to bottom. And as you tag bottom, you speed it up, to turn it to the right. And then as you get more reactive torque, so the more right-hand friction you create, the more reactive torque you control, the more you slow it down, the more it goes to the left. So you basically just control your speed and your differential until you get a founder point. A founder point meaning when you get your tool face where you want it, you just find that spot and you hold it. And you just slide and drill ahead. You're basically sliding while rotating the drill string. Yeah, fascinating.
That's great stuff.
Yeah, it's I'm not going to say the word game changer. I didn't say it.
Okay. Dwight says, where I first met Wayne, the infamous Beckfield. All right.
Yeah.
And then Salim says, Beckfield, the best MWD tool I work with.
Yeah, that was subsequent to, yeah.
So this is an interesting question, because you started out, essentially as a, almost like, what would they call the position before you went to do an MWD?
I started out as a wireline steering tool technician.
Okay, so wireline steering tool technician.
I started out as a wireline rigger, meaning I was a green out of the gate, coveralls, boots, hat, and all that. My job was? My job was to climb the derrick and hang the wireline shiv in the top of the derrick, and that was and go up on the air hoist in a belt and hook up stuff and get it, and bring stuff to the floor, and it was quite a. I loved every minute of it. I mean, I still look back in those days, and it was so exciting to be out there on those rigs and rig up all this equipment, and I put that belt on like the derrick man. And I just scurry on up that derrick all the way to the top, clip yourself. I mean, you go to crown, then they'd haul the wireline shiv up there. Then that's how you conveyed the wire into the drill pipe. So, I probably climbed 150 derricks, maybe more.
So what was it like becoming MWD hand? Then it went into directional drilling. So what was that dynamic like back then as opposed to how it is now? So
what was interesting is that was usually the natural progression, right? You could either go into directional drilling from working on the rig, being a driller around directional drillers where you'd have the drilling background, or you could take a path where you went through the steering survey MWD side, right? And train that way. Both parallels give you a certain level of experience. Clearly working on the rig as a driller, you get a lot more downhole because you're holding brake. But what I did, the way I learned really fast was instead of spending all my time in the living quarters when my tools were working, I spent all my time standing next to the directional driller on the rig floor, right? asking him if I could do his job for him. And quite frankly, they were all willing to let me do it for him. So they could go sit in the doghouse and they go, Wayne, how's it going up there? Right? They said, well, I get this job. So, but what they didn't realize is, I was getting an accelerated education by being willing to do more than I was asked because I really wanted to learn that component of the business. So, I had a lot of good directional drillers that taught me a lot. Over the years, I stood next to the break offshore and on land and all over the country. So,
So when did you make the transition from the field to the office?
Let me think about this. So I worked for Scientific in from 79, 80 through 86, 87. And then I moved to Oklahoma for 1 year with Scientific, and I got a lot of good experience on land there with a lot of good people. And that's when I met the Beckfield guys. And then they invited me to come to Beckfield and work for them in 87, I think, late 87, 88. And when I went there, my job was to get love this part, the steering tools department was just emerging, and we'd had to have a good guidance system to drill these horizontal wells, right? And you couldn't run MWD. You couldn't run MWD because we lose returns. You had no pressure profile, so you couldn't get a signal. You had to run steering tools. So I started out with that, and shortly after we kind of got that going, I broke into being one of the field directional guys on the rigs. And then I ended up having my own client, and I was the lead, and I had a night man and a steering crew or an MWD crew, depending on what kind of well we were drilling. And I guess that was in 89. I did that for about a year or two. And then a funny thing happened. A couple of the management team members came out to location and said, hey, you want to move into the office as operations coordinator? And I thought, well, yeah, why not? I'll be home. And, I won't have to be in the field anymore. And, I can be with my family. And I said, yeah, great. They said, okay, well, first you got to take a pay cut because you're not going to make as much as you make in the field. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll do that. And then they probably didn't tell me is I was worked twice as hard. And instead of having one job to worry about, I had 30 or 40, right? And then I worked 100 hours a week, and my wife never saw me. And she actually told me one time, she goes, I think that field thing was a lot better gig. But, so I paid my dues and, worked in operations. Then I got into sales. I started going with the salesman on sales calls. Back then, what's bizarre is drilling engineers, we all were learning horizontal drilling back then. So the stuff that we knew back then, we had, when we would go talk to Union Pacific or some of these other operators, we had to have people that actually been there and, know what's happening in the field. So I was able to parlay that experience into getting into sales as well. And then I got into management and upper management and, kept moving up. And I could tell you every detail of my resume, but it's, I don't want to bore you with all that. But,
yeah.
I moved up with Beckfield, and then the company was growing rapidly. And then I got an offer from another company that had just been acquired by First Reserve. Remember, you ever heard of First Reserve Corporation, a big private equity group?
No.
Well, they had acquired a Lafayette company called Drilling Measurements Incorporated, DMI, and they had a big steering and wireline operation. They wanted to venture into directional drilling and horizontal drilling. They hired an ex-Sperry guy to run it, and it was formerly owned by a family, and the family had sold it. And I knew the family, and I liked the company, but it was a great opportunity, so I took it. And I went there and built a team out, and we got a few jobs running. So now I'm like VP of the Western Division of this group, and it's going well, but the industry's kind of ebbing and flowing. And then about 4 or 5 years later, I get an offer from a company called Drillex Services. You remember Drillex?
I do.
So Drillex was one of the largest motor suppliers in the country. They had a great motor product line, but they had a pretty significant directional drilling group that had running 50, 60 jobs from Canada to South America, maybe more. And they offered me the VP of the Western Hemisphere job. So I got that job and worked there a few years. We get bought by Baker Hughes. And then I'm at Baker Hughes now at Rankin Road at the headquarters. They gave me a job. It's funny. I was the VP of the Western Hemisphere for Drillex, and we got bought by Baker Hughes. Well, they already have a VP of the Western Hemisphere, and his business unit was 10 times the size of mine. So I didn't get that job, needless to say. But I was fortunate enough that the people I work with kept me on the team. Normally when you get acquired, sometimes you get shot in the head, right? Well, I figured out how to survive that debacle, or not debacle, but acquisition, and tried to make the best of it, right? And, and there's a great story that comes out of this. As you go through your career in life, you think when you think that something bad is happening, you don't really know that something good is happening, right? You're learning from it, you're growing from it. And so I had the job that I always wanted at Drillex. That was, to me, I'd arrived. Coming from the field and being VP of the Hemisphere, I had a big job. I liked it. I liked the people. And then Baker comes and buys us, and it kind of, it kind of ruined my gumbo, right? So now I'm thinking, what do I do next? Well, I sucked it up and worked hard and got to know people. And before you know it, they put me in charge. They said, Wayne, we're not going to put you in the divisions just yet because we got to test drive you. You're not one of the Baker guys, right? We want you to be in charge of this product group, the Drillex products, this, and this. And oh, by the way, this product called Wildcat auto driller that we inherited from Drillex. Okay. Are you familiar with the Wildcat auto driller?
No.
So when I was at Drillex, there's a gentleman named Bobby Bowden, not to be confused with the football coach.
Yes.
His father actually invented the satellite automatic driller. On the rig, so it works off a weight on bit. It detects the weight and it regulates the ready release of the drill string off of the drum. It's got a little braking system. Well, he invented the satellite years ago. Well, back in 94, 95, Mr. Bowden, who lived in Gonzales, Texas, he came up with a way to put a pump pressure component on an auto driller so you'd have weight and pump. Why? He figured out that everybody's drilling with these downhole motors, and they're not going to drill with weight anymore in these wells. They're going to use pump pressure as the primary medium to regulate the ready release of drill string. Otherwise, the driller or the directional driller has to stand up there, with his magical hand, lifting the brake and setting the brake and, stand back. Let me show you. This is a magic hand here, lifting the brakes. Right. I know exactly how much pump pressure to put on this thing. And, the magicians are here, right?
Yeah.
And quite frankly, that's how directional horizontal drillers were. You knew something that not everybody knew. Now everybody knows it. It's not magic anymore. But so he thought, what if we put an auto driller on there that you could put pump and weight? And when you think about it, when you're vertical drilling, you have static hook load. So your weight on bit is a static measurement. When you start deviating the well bore, everything becomes less static. When you go horizontal, you now are inverted. Now you're under compression. You think about that. You're compressing the vertical string to shove weight to the lateral, right, and get weight on bit. And so now you have a disconnect between your static hook load and what your actual weight on bit is. So what we were measuring was weight off of string, right? When you compress the drill pipe to push to go horizontal, your weight on bit's not the same as what your string hook load measurement delta is, right? So anyway, he put together this little simple system, and he put weight on bit and pump pressure together, and he built it, but he didn't want to distribute it. He didn't want to go out in the field and go to rigs. You know how we go to rigs and you got to hook it up and talk to the company man and sign up all this stuff, right? And do the service, right? Take service. So he got Drillex to be his distributor. Well, that happened from 93 to 94, 95. About 96, 97 is when I joined Drillex, and then I think I was there about a year or two, and then Baker bought us, right? About 98. Well, they had just gotten the Wildcat auto driller off the ground with 50, 60 units running, right? And on Drillex jobs. Drillex, the guys figured out, hey, we'll distribute this. We'll put it on our directional jobs, and we'll use it to run the motors, right? Well, they got out of the gate, and then I'll try to make this story a little shorter if I can, because it's a no. But and off they go. Well, then the downturn comes, and Baker buys Drillex. So the purchase of Drillex by Baker was for their directional drilling, MWD, and operations. They didn't buy it because they had this auto driller. This auto driller was a blip on the radar screen of their P&L or their focus, right? It was just an ancillary peripheral product. It wasn't core competencies, right?
Yeah.
So sure enough, fast forward, get back to the original story, just like they do in Netflix. They backtrack and they go forward, right?
Yeah.
So fast forward, I'm post acquisition. I'm in a meeting, and I remember my boss tells me, he says, "All right, I need for you to look at these motor product lines are not going to fit with our go forward plan. These products are going to fit in your group. These products, okay, what do you think? Yeah, okay. And look, our focus is this new evolutionary technology called AutoTrack, rotary steerable, right? This is 1998, by the way. So think about it. AutoTrack was like flying to the moon. It was new. They flew us to Celle, Germany, and we looked at it. Oh my God! Behind door number 3 is this AutoTrack, right? You can't tell anybody; it's top secret. It was really just becoming a thing, right? And it is a thing. It's fantastic piece of technology. But back then, it was like we can't worry about all this small motor stuff. The future is rotary steerable drilling. In fact, motors will be obsolete. That's what we all believe. Yeah. Motors will be obsolete, right? Think about this for a minute. Motors will be obsolete. 1998. That's what we believe. So, okay, so I got this new job, right, to deal with all these different products. I'm gonna sell tools to Nigeria. Companies that we'd sold tools to, they would take technology that wasn't offshore, they'd use it on land, and we'd sell stuff in Indonesia and so on. And I found this Wildcat auto driller thing. I had to go meet Bobby Bowden, and I've gotten to know this guy in Gonzales, Texas. I said, "Hey, Bobby." Got to know the guy real well, built a lot of trust. And I said, "Look, it's 1999. Industry's really not doing well. Think about it. Oil price was what, $8-10? Rig count was 370, 400, just like, the pandemic downtown. It was terrible." And I went to him and said, "You got to take this product back. Baker Hughes doesn't want to distribute it." And he says, "No, I don't want to do that." He says, "I don't want headaches with all that." He said, "Why don't you do it?" So he offered it to me. He says, it's a long story that built up to that, but I'll try to get to the point. Is he basically partnered with me to take over that product line and become his distributor. So I thought it through, calculated, what it would take if the product could be successful. And so I resigned from my job, right? I've got 2 kids, a mortgage, a wife, a life, right? And I have fortunately had savings account, and I came home to my wife and I said, "Hey, look, what do you think if I quit my job? I'm going to lose my company car. We're going to unload our savings account and our 401k, and we're going to invest in distributing this tool that's yet to be proven. So what do you say? Chop, chop." And that was a hard conversation. So, but she did agree to it. And, she said, "What's the worst case scenario?" I said, "Worst case scenario is I can go back to work in the field and I can make a living." She said, "Okay, let's do it." So I did. I hired 2 guys from the group and partnered with this guy. And we went from 50 units in our fleet to 2000, it's 1999. 2004, we had 550 units running throughout the world and growing, right? And sold the business to Varco in 2004 so that they could aggregate the IP. It was a patented product, by the way. I forgot that part. Not to mention, it had a strong patent, a stouter than a garlic milkshake. It was a really solid patent. And it patented the unique feature of regulating the rate of release of a drill string using weight on bit and pump pressure in combination, right? Or singular with pump. You couldn't patent regulating the rate of release of a drill string in weight because that had already been done. That was prior art. But IP's complex, so. Oh, we lost. IP. Everybody cut us off.
That's all right. We're still.
Are we there?
Yeah.
So
we're back on.
Are we on?
Yeah, we're good.
So anyway, where was I? Oh, so you couldn't patent that. So it had a strong patent. Well, we had become quite a force in the industry. We had this on hundreds of rigs. It's kind of becoming a standard tool now. When auto drilling every rig's drilling with motors. So every rig wanted to rent this tool because the rigs didn't have what they have today. Back then, the rigs were band brake rigs, right? And they didn't have these block control systems, joystick controls, right? But that was coming. And I kind of sensed that because I started developing a relationship with MD Totco and the guys at Varco. And I could tell what automation was coming and how are we going to fit into it. And what Varco great story, but it really gets good. Varco recognizes we'd like to have this IP so we can integrate it into our block control system. So you could have an auto driller feature with your joystick controls, and they would be kind of in the driver's seat for that technology and not on the outside looking in. So we sold the company to them in July 1st, 2004. It'll be 20 years next July since that happened.
Wow.
Yeah. So after that, I stayed on with the company for about 4 or 5 more years, and together with them, we doubled the size of the business. At one point, I think there was almost 1,000 Wildcat auto drillers on rigs throughout the world until it hit its peak, and then the new joystick control rigs started coming out, and then those units started getting rigged down in favor of auto control systems. Yeah. So quite an interesting, long way to say the result of Wildcat Services. But along the way, when I owned Wildcat, I founded with another group of guys a solids control company, some MWD parts business with some partners. They ran it, but I was part of that. I had 2 or 3 other little ventures. So I became this serial entrepreneur, by me being a business owner. So then I went through, probably worked with, when I sold in 2004, I get to claim, and this is true, and I tell the CEO of NOV this every now and then, that Wildcat acquisition by Varco was the last one that Varco did, and then they merged with the National Oilwell to become NOV, right? And I'll never forget, the whole time I was negotiating my deal, I kept asking, well, look, why don't you guys give me some stock, And they said, no, we can't do that. I wanted some stock in the deal, right? Instead of cash and whatever, whatever consideration was. And they wouldn't give me stock, and I couldn't figure out why. And it was because they knew that they were going to, after they completed my deal, they were finished making acquisitions. They were fixing to merge with NOV, and it would probably be a windfall, and they wouldn't give any stock. But they never told me that. So, lesson learned. Always listen to what people are not telling you, right? So, but it wasn't malicious in any way. They just couldn't, right? They were under confidentiality with their groups. So like, we can't tell him that. We can't give him stock because it'll as soon as we give him stock and we merge, so they were just going to do it cash and whatever. So. But a lesson learned. It was a great lesson. But anyway, so right after I sold, NOV and Varco merges, and then I spent the next 5-6 years working with the NOV group, helping grow the product. But I stepped aside after a while. After a few years, I kind of became more of an advisor. I want to let my team and their teams take over. It's like one of these guys. I have to be in charge forever. Whatever's best for the enterprise, that's what we're going to do. And I kind of stayed in the game with them till 2011 and 12, and then in 13 I joined Drilling Tools. So that's kind of how I got here. So, well, that was
that's fascinating. There's so much there that,
I could unpack so many things out of the vault. You just have no idea. So,
this is all great stuff.
Yeah. So,
all right, Tracy. I know we probably got a couple of questions in here. Let's grab a couple of them. Dwight, where it all started and grew for Horizontal Giddings Dilly when the oil field was fun. Good to see all those who worked with become successful people they are. Yeah. Ivan, what are the main challenges Drilling Tools International is facing to go further, faster in onshore and offshore wells?
Well, we have to keep innovating. We have to keep, delivering to our clients new and, products and services that enable them to do what they want to do, achieve better and better wells, right? It's proven well performance is what is the order of the day. And this rotor steer is a great example. We have a couple of other products that we're partnered with some other suppliers that are becoming more commercially, viable, and we're excited about those. So not everything I really want to kind of, go into, but also we have a new stabilizer that we're partnering with a group out of the Netherlands called ED Projects. So that's one that I can get excited about. A new stabilizer design that these guys are very talented and clever that have come up with, a new design that, reduces vibration, has a number of benefits in the wellbore, and it's geometry. You know, it's a more clever geometry, a more improved and perfect flow dynamic than conventional stuff. So we were the first to grab onto that, partner with them, and try to work with them over the last few years to, you know, find that commercial opportunity that creates a value for the customer and value for us as well, us and them as well. So
I actually reached out to those guys to get them to be able to come on the show and teach us about.
Tom's fantastic.
Yeah.
I have great respect for Tom. He's Tom Newman.
Yep.
He's incredible. And Yellow, the guy that runs this company now, is a talented young man. Really, really talented group over there. So we partner with them, and we're pretty excited about that. So,
so we'll probably have them on the show pretty soon. All right, what else we got there, Tracy? Wayne, how does drilling oil tools intend to manage potential regulatory changes or geopolitical risks that could impact oil and gas industry in the coming years? I think that was supposed to be true. Yeah, drilling tools international. Yeah. No worry.
I think we're all going to be challenged with. You know, the regulatory agencies that are putting more and more pressure on our industry, but you know, we can complain about the continued pressures of. I find our government has become punitive in their approach to our industry, but you know, we have to comply. We have to figure out how to comply. We use our quality and safety program and our quality management program as the hub of how we meet or exceed all the compliance requirements in our business. So our QHSE group, you know, health, safety, environmental, and quality, that is a group that we use to how we run our business. It's a very important component of what we do, and it keeps us focused on doing business the right way, and you know, making sure all of our facilities are you know, exceed any kind of environmental requirements. We try to we recycle quite a bit, recycle steel, recycle, you know, all of the materials that we use. So, you know, we look at what's required of us, and we set it in, we embed it into our business and try to be at least at the bare minimum a leader in, you know, making sure that we meet or exceed those requirements. So it's not going to get easier. I mean, the question asked was a good one. Probably on the minds of many oil and gas executives throughout the industry about how do we keep running our business in a profitable manner when we have more and more compliance pressure put upon us. Here's my answer. It's the simplest answer. Don't ever bet against this industry. You know, don't ever bet against this industry. It's the most resilient, tenacious group of people you'll ever work with on the planet in any industry. This oil and gas business. From the oil companies down to the supply, the machining suppliers, right? This is the most, you know, the survivalist mode, and we tend to improve what we do through each survival cycle. It's don't you find it fascinating how rapidly we advance the technology and the efficiency of our industry, the more challenges that are placed upon us? It's like no matter what challenge the government or policy or political pressures on us, we seem to rise every time. The sun will shine again on us. It has to. So I think we go and figure it out, and we do what we have to do, and we run our businesses and take care of our employees and take care of our clients, and it works out over and over. So
excellent answer, sir.
Yeah.
All right. Robert says, I remember when Baker bought Drillex and Denny Kerr and Sam, is that Clayton or Claytor, came to Rankin Road. I had trained them in MWD in the 1970s at SLB's MWD group, Small World.
Denny was the guy that recruited me. He passed away a few years ago. He was a fine guy. He was president of Drillex at the time, and he recruited me to be his VP. And I was quite flattered. He had a lot of capable guys in the organization that he could have promoted. And I'm nothing against them. They were all, you know, but they brought someone from the outside. That was his call. And I was glad to be chosen. And I did as good a job as I could. And I thought I did a pretty good job there. I knew Sam well. Sam used to run, run BICO for a while. I haven't seen him in a while. So, yeah.
The industry is definitely a small world. Robert says, motor run life has increased dramatically from the 1980s when 20 hours was okay, since the rig had to trip for a bit about 20 hours. Wayne, what motor life do you expect today?
Well, it's funny. People used to talk about life. The easy answer is if you can't run 100 hours under grueling conditions, you're probably not going to be the motor choice selected. But in that 100 hours, you also have to withstand the highest differential pressure, probably usually above your specifications or recommendations to the client, with rotating at a lightning speed. So it's not just the time; it's the performance that's required. They want to run differentials now on these long, extended power sections that are just defy the laws of physics. I mean, and they put these motors under tremendous amount of performance pressure. But to answer your question, John, I mean, 100 hours plus is expected. I know in most of the shale plays in Permian and other places, 100 hours is expected, and with high performance. So, and I think I've heard some operators tell me that they're going to start taking the approach that after 100 hours of high performance, they're going to trip out of the hole and change everything out, because what they're learning is fatigue cycles start developing exponentially after that period of use. So there's probably some standards changes in the industry where the idea of going top to bottom in one run is great, but if you have one hiccup along the way, everything turns bad. So there's going to be cases where you want to run laterals are normal. There's going to be cases where people are going to drill it in 2 or 3 because it's more practical to, maybe make a nice wiper trip and change up tools and just go to TD and not worry about twisting off and fishing and so on.
Yeah. As the average rate of, sorry, can't take that call right now.
No.
As the average rate of as your average ROP starts to increase, then the, a singular trip, that singular trip, the percentage of time for the well, that increases.
Yes.
So making undue trips just becomes a bigger and bigger issue.
Absolutely. So, but one twist off negates all of that.
Yeah, very true. Very true. What else? Good exit. So many try to stick around and are in the way. Rebecca Cunningham, the director, filming, videographer for How It's Done.
Oh yeah,
AKA my mom says hi.
Yes, I remember that. That's right. She does that. Yeah.
North Dakota is busy despite what we hear. Wyoming is drawing away. Also good to see. And then Eric asks, any technology transfer specific to geothermal?
Well, we were talking the other day about geothermal. In geothermal wells, you have a challenge because running the type of technology that gives you the efficient drilling and fast drilling in shale plays, you kind of are going to have a challenge in deep, hot wells, right? The heat will start becoming a problem. I mean, look at the challenges you have in the Haynesville. And I'm pretty sure that in geothermal wells, those temperatures will exceed what you would normally get in those wells. So vibration dampening tools that are not, susceptible to heat failures, would be something in geothermal. We have a tool we worked on for many years with another partner where it's a tungsten collar that's pre-torqued and stretched, and you put it right on top of the bit. And it's basically for straight rotary drilling in 12 and a quarter bigger hole sizes, and it's not designed to really run with a motor. And we think that that kind of tool placed right at the bit would really enhance bit life and improve ROP and reduce vibration when you get into some of these really hard rocks, right? So that's we had a name for it. It's called the Hercules tool. We ran it and tested it, and we still have it, and we're looking for other opportunities. And the partner that I have, he's looking for them as well. So that he's got a different name for it now, but that's an example of technology that's you can use in different things. Geothermal will be one of them, but that's
yes. All right, I think that wraps up all of the questions that we had for everybody that's come in. Anything else that you want to be able to share with the audience today? Anything else you'd like to say?
Our future is bright. We have a lot of, one of our strategies in going public was to be a merger and acquisition consolidator in the industry. I think our industry would be healthier if we had some consolidation and efficiencies gained by having, more abilities to innovate and if you have a stronger, healthier company, you can generate income, and that supports your continuous improvement and innovation strategies. If our customer base continues to try to compress costs all the time, well, that flows downhill where everyone's cost compression. There's less innovation dollars, right? So I think building scale and building strength with bringing multiple companies together, it's better. You're better able to serve the client's long-term needs. Short-term, they just want a discount. We get it. It's fact of life. But
yeah.
So hopefully we can drive more value by being an industry consolidator, and that's pretty much what I want to do with the rest of my professional career in the next few years. Is build another very admirable and hopefully respected oil field service brand. So in the next few years.
So what kind of companies are you guys looking for right now?
We have a number on our radar screen, a number of people we're talking to. So yeah.
Anything in general that you can say, maybe not the ones that you're already looking at right now, but if there's an entrepreneur out there who's doing something, what are you looking for? And what is the type of company, and what are the people running it that you're looking for?
That's a great question. I'm glad you asked it that way. And I can answer that because it's more strategy rather than specifics, right?
Yeah.
So, I would say the hardest thing for an entrepreneur to do these days when you're starting up is get capital, right? Capital is hard to get in our business. Startups are hard to fund. They usually requires an angel investor or personal income to fund that. The next thing is to get to scale to where it has commercial sticking power. So if there's guys out there, if you're out there, you're an entrepreneur, you own something. I've done this myself. I've been on the side of the fence. I know what it's like to fund 2 or 3 startups. I know what it's like to empty your own personal bank account and, go fulfill, chase your own dream. I was fortunate to have some success in that regard and continue down the path of creating more value. So if you have something out there that you think is unique in the drilling space or completion space or production space, we'd like to talk to you. We talk to everybody. I mean, I've probably had 50 people come sit in our boardroom and say, hey, I've got this idea, or hey, I've got this company, we do this. Not all of them are a great fit for us, but you got to meet a lot of people, and you have to have a lot of conversations to find out where the chemistry works between either the company or the culture of the people or the strategy. All of those need to align. So many companies try to put stuff together. They jam things together for the sake of scale or growth or just bigger's better. No, alignment is the key word. You got to be aligned in your goals, objectives, and you have to have the right team of people that understand the mission and say, we're doing something we all believe in. So that's why, I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs. There's a lot, not many of them are listening, but there's a lot of guys out there. Well, there's a lot of guys out there that I've talked to about this very thing. And I've tried to, if I couldn't invest in them, if we couldn't invest in them or we couldn't help them, I try to give them good advice, so that they can go out and accomplish their goals, because they're not always a good fit for us. But we talk to anybody. So anybody wants to, pitch us or discuss an opportunity, I thoroughly enjoy listening. And if we can, we will. So, yeah. We've got a track record of doing a pretty good job with that. So, we've been ready.
So what other advice then you say, like, if you can't invest with them, what advice do you normally give entrepreneurs?
Well, let's take, for example, you're investing in wells now, right?
I am.
So, if you're going to take an approach, like the greatest thing about investing in oil wells, you're trying to create passive income, right? You want to invest, then you want to get a check, right? That's the goal. So a few years ago, my wife and I, I got an invite to invest in a number of wells, and we decided to put some money into. I think we invested in 10 wells, and the wisest thing you can do is take 1 to whatever percentage you want. Take a piece of 10, and take the same piece of all 10. The worst thing you can do is try to pick the winner and the loser and take a bigger one and a smaller one piece, right? Oh, this is going to be better. Let's take 10% of that or 5% of that, right? No, just the best thing to do is find a good operator that has a strategy, and you're going to drill 10 wells across the spectrum, either conventional, unconventional, whatever it is, right? And if it makes sound advice, take a small piece of all 10 of those and stick with that plan. You're probably going to come out better by having 5 of those wells will probably produce, and 2 of them will be a disaster, and 3 of them will be winners. You know what I mean? And overall, you'll get probably a reasonable return. Don't get caught up into the trying to swing for the fence in every well, right? I mean, I'll tell you a story. I had one well. I did that. I invested the same amount in all these wells. Well, one well was a little undersold, and my buddy said, "Hey, man, this we're all going to double down and put more into this one. This one's got the best prospects, right?" And I said, "Okay, I'm in." So put a bunch of money in that. And another lesson learned: never ever name your well Little River, because it could flow a lot of salt water. So yeah, so never invest in a well named Little River. So. Little River number something. But anyway, overall, I've been successful with the guy I invested in. We did well. But like my story was, if I'd have just taken the same percentage of all the same wells I invested in, I'd have been a lot further ahead. I've been a lot better off financially, right? But fortunately, we had some good ones that returned off the bad ones. But I took so much of the bad one because it, double down and triple down, and that's a terrible idea. Don't do that. Because you just don't know, no matter how much experience you have, the answer there is spread your risk across a broader spectrum of things, and try not to swing for the fence. That's for, if you're using other people's money, that's another story. But with regard to starting your own business, it's hard. It's hard to start your own business. It's not for the faint of heart. You have to have enough capital. You have to have a primary, a secondary, and a third and fourth resource of cash, because it'll always take more than you think. It'll always take longer than you think, and it's never going to work out as good as you think. You're the exception if you just knock it out of the park on your first try. It usually takes a lot of effort, a lot of grinding, and you got to be mentally and emotionally and financially prepared for that. Not everybody is. They usually get out of the gate full of emotion and enthusiasm, and then they run, it doesn't work out like they think. They run short of cash. They got to bring on an investor, on and on and on, right? Have a plan of execution with backups and reserves along the way, and go take that leap of faith, but do it with, get some advice. The other thing young people do, that don't have a lot of experience, they have great ideas and they're brilliant, but they don't have a lot of experience or scars. So when they go talk to experienced people will tell them, well, you ought to think about and not do that. And what they don't want people to talk about their dreams, so they ignore the 5 or 6 good pieces of advice for fear that, their dream will die, right? Well, the wisest thing to do is listen carefully what they're telling you and put that into your knowledge bank and make that a factor in your decision making. Don't get so enamored with what you want to accomplish only, singularly focused, that you don't listen to the stuff around you. Experience matters. Let me tell you, experience matters. If 45, 46 years in this business has taught me anything, I'm learning today faster than I learned for the first 30 years. So, keep learning, never stop learning.
Well, Wayne, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really, really do appreciate it. Tons of nuggets of knowledge here, not only just for myself, but everybody that's been here watching. I think it's been an absolute pleasure. Look forward to the success that you guys have. I definitely put some money into the DTI stock myself, so not a whole lot. Trust me, it didn't make a single little blip on any of the stickers or tickers. Sorry. Thanks everybody for watching. Really do appreciate it. I'm trying to think. I don't have a show lined up quite yet for next week. Sorry, I've been a little, for lack of better words, I've been lazy this summer. Had a lot going on. But we will definitely get some more guests lined up. I think the next one, at least, we've got at the end of the month with Duncan Groves with Baker Hughes. We're going to come on and talk about acoustic telemetry in the MWD space. So be sure to check that one out. Also, be sure to go onto YouTube and watch the How It's Done show with Drilling Tools International. Y'all are on season 1 for that. So if you guys want to see how a stabilizer is made and put together, an absolutely amazing episode. It's all there for you guys to be able to go see. That's it for me. And as always, know your industry.